Hello everyone, welcome to the Rec Hangout, hashtag Rec Hangout. This week we are discussing how should recruiters be using Facebook. I'm joined by Katrina Collier from Winning Impressions. She's going to give us a few tips and tools and a bit of strategy around Facebook. And please do send your questions in either by Twitter, hashtag Rec Hangout, or tweet me directly at colleagueRS, or use the Q&A app on Google+, which is on this Hangout event page. This Hangout is sponsored by Abtech Partnership. Alan Whitford here is our host. Mark Stevens from F10 Group is usually a co-host. He's not here today, unfortunately. And Louise Triance from UK Recruiter. She is also not here today, so I'll be monitoring the questions and Twitter feed. My name's Louis Welcomme. Colleague Software also supports this Hangout. Alan, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis, and welcome, Katrina.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we've got a tough day today. Obviously, Mark wanted to be with us. I was looking forward to this, but he came back from his apparently a boys' week away doing the pre-wedding thing for somebody, and he blames his bronchitis reoccurrence on the air conditioning in his office. So we may need to check Facebook later to see what really happened in Ibiza. And I'm sure Louise is enjoying the sunshine in Berkshire at the moment. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. As Louis said, use the hashtag Rec Hangout. Check in with Bernadette Fieldhaber. She's already been sending stuff to us before we even got started. So please feel free to join in with that. And it's a social event, so please be social. And Louise, I guess, and Louise is hanging out, so she would normally monitor this, so give Louis a break. It'll take him a few minutes because he's managing all the tech as well as trying to manage Katrina and I. Katrina, Facebook.
Okay.
Now, we've been talking about this whole social media thing for about 3 years now, and Facebook kind of goes up and down, and people's, yeah, I should use it, no, I shouldn't. I talked to my 28, 29-year-old nieces who came out of the Ivy League, where Facebook started as a communication tool for Ivy Leaguers, and they go, hey, it's social. Why would I ever use this thing for work? Leave me alone. Surely there's some validity to that argument, isn't there?
Okay, they must have a very different news feed to what I have. I mean, my news feed is full of, I need a recommendation of a cleaner, I need somebody to suggest where I should host my website, I've got a problem with this employee, can you give me help? I mean, my news feed happens to be full of lots of questions which would overlap from social, we're not just talking about our hobbies and our interests, into what we're doing day to day. So, and what we're doing in our work lives. So I really do beg to differ. And also it's because there are 802 million people who are on there daily, actively using it. You can't tell me they're not talking about business stuff as well. But it's all obviously about how you do it and how you go about it, which is the crucial part. But I also think that you're missing out on a massive demographic if you ignore it, because there's lots of people on there. Lots more than on any of the other sites. So I don't know. I mean, I know. Sorry, I was just going to say, my friend who's a physio is quite adamant that when they're looking for physios, they just ask their network of friends, we're after physio, who do you know? And it's as simple as that, and they place on referral.
All right. So I don't disagree. Obviously, we can't disagree with the numbers, the 800+ million. I think Google and Google Plus might disagree about who's got the most, but I'll leave that to the number crunchers.
Daily
but I still think, yeah, daily active, yeah. But I'm just playing the devil's advocate here because I've been promoting the use of Facebook with people like the Rank Group and others for quite a while now. But I think there is still perhaps a misconception of just because they're there means I am allowed to send them stuff about work.
That's like saying that they're not allowed to put a pay-per-click advertisement in front of you. I mean, okay, everyone ready for a giggle? When I changed my Facebook status to separated, the very next pay-per-click advert I saw said, "Would you like a faithful husband?" And thankfully, that wasn't an issue. Thankfully, it was a very amicable split, and he's a great man, so I wasn't really offended. But oh my goodness, how offensive. And no, I didn't ask for somebody to put that advertisement in front of me. So I really don't think it matters. I think it's all about how you go about it. And, you know, you can do great pay-per-click adverts to hire. I know Virgin Media have done that for a couple of roles. It only ended up, they paid someone to design the actual advertisement, so it cost them 500 quid, but they got 2 hires out of it, and one was promoted very quickly because they were exactly the caliber that they were after. Did they ask permission to do that? No. So I don't know. I mean, I constantly see stuff in my feed that I perhaps would like to unsee, and it's stuff my friends are sharing. So it's the well, come on, this time of the year as well, you particularly see a lot of things you don't want to see. So,
yeah.
Apologies, that was my
There is that. Yeah. Well, let me ask you the question then. How do you, you've worked with a lot of different companies in different types of industries or sectors.
Yeah.
You say if we start at the top, you know, the top 5, are there top 5 industries that really should be embracing Facebook as a tool? You know, I think of catering right away, or those sorts of environments.
I mean, my background's technical recruitment, so when I go on there, I look for techies, and I find techies, and lots of my friends are actually in that technical space as well. So I don't actually think you can put it down to, I mean, you know, there are 1.2 billion all up, and 802 million are active. There could be anything right across the range, but of course your high volume recruitment, it makes sense that that would be a great place to go to capture them, of course, but everybody is on there. I mean, it's such a broad range of people. It's, yeah, and I don't know the breakdown, so I can't answer you, because we're reliant on people filling out their profiles as well, which of course is one of the big drawbacks.
And by filling out the profile, so let's assume that I'm a semi-neophyte on Facebook. You know, I have not actually filled out a full profile, a work profile. I've got LinkedIn for that. I've got my own CV and backgrounder. So the stuff I've got on Facebook is really minimalist. So actually, you may never find me on Facebook for work, but even though I use it only for work, I haven't filled in anything.
Okay.
Is that a norm, or am I just an oddball? Can I open up a door for you on that one?
Yeah, I'll plead the fifth. No, no, that's really common. So basically, you've got graph search, which is, if you've got the little F box on the top of the search box, you'll know, and as soon as you start to fill it out, it'll start auto-filling, and that's how you know. So you can find people either directly, so not for you because you haven't filled it out, but you could do people who are nurses and live in London, for example, and it'll help fill you out. So that's great for people that have completed it. But then if people haven't, what they've often done is liked something that's an interest. So if you take the Java developers, for example, they've often liked the Java as a technology, but haven't necessarily written that they're a developer because they don't want to be hassled. So you can do things like people who like Java and live in London, UK. So that's your other way of finding people, or perhaps they're in a group, they've joined a group as well. So you can be people who are members of, and it can be an interest again, and who live in, and that's how it works.
So it sounds like then, you know, the introduction of graph search, with some to do within the industry, but outside the industry, people probably are still kind of, I thought I just searched. If you are a professional recruiter or even a semi-professional recruiter, then you can start to take advantage of what we originally started using Facebook, because there's lots of good stuff that people just reveal about themselves without necessarily using a profile. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, graph search revolutionized searching on Facebook. Beforehand, it was really hard to find people. Now it's quite easy. It's a different way of thinking. You know, you can't use Boolean strings in there. So you're not writing, you know, Java and developer and things like that. You're writing as you'd think. So people who work at, people who are, you know, you might go, actually, I want to find out people who work at JP Morgan, and live in a location and things like that. You could pick off your competitors and find people that way as well. Or perhaps they've liked the page. You know, it's sort of, you just got to find different ways. You know, one of the sneaky tricks, if you're, say you wanted people who were working at Google and you knew there was a coffee shop across the road, you can do a search for people who checked in at, because it might be likely that they've checked in and got their morning coffee. So it's just thinking differently. I mean, you're not spoon-fed as you are on LinkedIn, which is obviously putting a lovely little CV right in front of you. This is quite different. So
yeah. All right. Well, and I'm getting some immediate feedback on the start of our conversation, by the way. So, Alistair Murray, you know, content developer extraordinaire. Numbers don't always mean results. The Sun has the largest circulation of any newspaper, but it's rubbish for recruitment. So, so it's not just about circulation. I get that. And Lisa Jones is already, she's hitting back at me, thinking you shouldn't contact someone on Facebook. It's like assuming that people in a club don't want to be asked to dance. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Hand slaps.
I mean, go Lisa. Love it, Lisa. Okay, that's fair enough, Alistair. But I guess what we're getting at is when you've got 1.8 billion people in the world who are on social networks, and there's 1.2 of them are on Facebook, to leave it out is just dumb. And but that's also like assuming that if you're on LinkedIn, you want to be contacted about a job. You know, that doesn't mean results either, but we all bombard everybody that's on LinkedIn because there's 3,500 staff at LinkedIn yelling at you that it's the answer. I'm just saying perhaps it's not. Perhaps you could go and get, you know, there's only 150 million users that use LinkedIn for this maximum of 17 minutes a month of the 300 million. I think I just misstated that. You've got these 802 million daily active users who are on their daily answering messages, this kind of thing. Louis got his hand up. Did you want to say something?
Yes, no, not whilst you were still speaking. I've got a question, so please do carry on.
Oh, no, that's all right. No. I just got so excited to see your hand. I'm an odd cove. But I'm just saying, like, it's just, okay, maybe the numbers don't mean anything, but why limit your pool to just 150 million active on LinkedIn when you could hit up 802 million other people? You know, there's a whole load of other people there that are worth trying, and there's multiple different ways to try and reach them and get an audience for your jobs and your opportunities, or to, you know, get them bought into what you're doing. I mean, it's such a lovely social space. I just think it's daft. That's just my opinion.
So Louis, I think Louis has a question. But
yes,
mute, so
there's loads of Twitter messages now on the hashtag arguing about this. So I'll have a look at those in a minute and get back to you guys. But my question is, Katrina, we have a lot of IT technical recruiters that are customers and in our networks and so forth. Yep. Do you have any specific examples that you could tell us about? Interesting examples where you've sourced technical people and developers and so forth using Facebook? Because you mentioned that earlier, but I wonder if you had any specific
I mean,
anecdotes.
Myself personally, I've had 18 months internal, which is part of my winning impression, so it's hard to see. And I was sourcing ClickView consultants who are extremely difficult to source because you're after the technical skills, but also the ability to speak English, as in communicate the techie in English is what I mean by that. And I did approach somebody via Facebook, and he quite happily responded to me, and he's still in the job and still talking to me, which is probably a good indication that he was fine about being approached that way. So I have done that. But if you start typing in things like people who are software programmers and live in London, or people who are software programmers and like Java and live in London, and things like that, you'll be staggered at the numbers that come up. Now, if you've got somebody who is a friend or a friend of a friend, you can message them directly. If they're not, it will go into what's called their other inbox. Now, a lot of people don't know that they have an other inbox, but if you go up to your normal inbox on the desktop version, you'll see the other one there, and it's usually full of spam, which is usually quite amusing. You don't want your message landing in there because it won't be seen, but you can pay just $1, about 60p, to have it delivered to their regular inbox. So I mean, yes, personally, I have recruited on there. I know of other people who've recruited on there. Actually, another one, if you go and look at VMware's page, they've got a jobs box on their page. Loads of people are bought into them as a technology company, and they're getting applications that way. So definitely. I mean, I know of my own friends. I've got that many developers in my network of friends, so definitely.
You're on mute, Alan.
Yes, Louis, you trained me to mute, and that did me in. So we've got a couple streams, and I'm sure Louis is going to catch up with a few more of them. But Billy McDermott, and hopefully I haven't butchered your name, Billy. Sorry about that. Worried about the messaging in Facebook and Facebook's terms and T's and C's. And if you do too much recruitment messaging, could you end up getting marked as a spammer?
Do you know? I don't know. Sorry. I've never been asked that question before, and I've not looked into it. But I would have thought they'd be quite happy to accept your dollar. I mean, of course, the other thing that you can do is do my friends of friends who are whatever, software developers, software programmers, engineers, blah, 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 and ask your friend to introduce you. That's the other option. Or if you did find somebody and think they were good, you, of course, could always Google and see where else you could find them and message them another way. But I honestly don't know the answer. Great question. If they'd like to tweet me at Winning Impress, I will find out and answer them.
All right. So, but let's tie in, though, a little bit what you're talking about in terms of, I think Bernadette's asking the question, Louise had someone else that's asked it, so you found them on Facebook. That's great.
Yeah.
You know, what's the right protocol for actually contacting them? You know, do I friend them? Do I ask a friend to introduce me first? Do I spend this dollar? You know, what should I be doing once I've identified that person?
Okay. I'm on a hangout with Louis here. If Louis added me as a friend, I'd be like, okay, that's a bit weird. You know, it's like it is taking somebody from that contact into that personal space. So no, I don't actually, but that's just, I mean, that's my opinion. I'd be really uncomfortable. You know, you, Alan, I've met multiple times in person. You added me as a friend, of course I'd accept. It's just, so to add a stranger, yeah, no, I wouldn't be using it that way. I mean, and one important thing I suggest you do is lock it down. So I'll explain how to do that in 1 second. But no, I think that the best thing to do is to send them a message or to find them somewhere else, perhaps use information from their profile in that conversation, not negative, but, you know, I see you have an interest in XYZ, or you'd like it in our firm because we all, you say it's football, we all play football after work, you know, you make sure that you drop their interest in. So if you're uncomfortable sending them a message via Facebook or asking someone that's a mutual friend to introduce you, then I would go off and see where else you can find them. So simple Google search of name or... Sorry?
Oh, like a community. I remember days ago, feels like a long days, but it was years ago, when Matt Jeffrey was still at Electronic Arts and he started using Facebook. They spent almost a year just building up communities of interest about the cool games and developments and all of that before they started promoting any of the employment messages. So they actually engaged with people and the company first. They didn't just say, hey, I found you on Facebook and you look like a games designer. Do you want to come work for us? So is there, it feels like there's still this little bit of a challenge. I can find you on Facebook, and then I got to decide what's the best way to contact you, because now I found you. Now I'm itchy. I'm a recruiter. I've half the job done. I found you. You know.
No, I understand that, because there are those two elements. And actually, Steve Ward from Cloud9 Recruitment, I stole his blog off LinkedIn and just put it into my blog with his permission, of course, which is fantastic, and it is coming from that recruitment agent point of view, which is. And he's just talking social media in general, that, you know, you do have a role and you've got the pressure of targets behind you, or for that matter, internally, the line manager yelling at you. So you're kind of going, I've got to fill the role, I've got to fill the role. So there is that element of, oh my goodness, I need to find them and I need to hire them now. But then if you're, you know, if you're in a vertical and you're recruiting the same kind of people all the time, like I was with the ClickView, you can join some of the groups that are on there or get involved in some of the pages. And I don't mean spam them with their jobs. I mean genuinely have conversations. You see they post something, share it, write a comment, you know, just attract people through normal, you know, manners and conversation. And that magnetism. I did promise to explain how to lock it down. Should I quickly do that?
Yeah, while you do that,
Yeah,
let's show us how to do that.
Shall I try and show? I'm a bit scared to do the screen share,
Yeah.
just in case I get it wrong. Right, hang on.
So while you're doing that,
let me make
we'll do a reset with our audience. Will you get that set up, Katrina? So This is Alan Whitford, Louis Welcomme, and Katrina Collier. It's on the live Rec Hangout, coming to you from all over the UK, apparently, Norfolk, London, and wherever else we are. And we're talking Facebook and Facebook for recruiting. And we've had some great feedback, probably 60 or 70 messages already in the Twitter feed, which is fantastic. We created a lot of controversy about content, about reach, and about how to, and the ethics of actually using Facebook. And Katrina is going to show us some stuff, if you can get screen share to do what it's supposed to do, on locking it down, which sounds slightly Arnie Schwarzenegger-like, but Kat, I'm going to come back to locking it down. Good luck on the screen share. Okay. There we are, screen share.
Is it working? Can you see it?
We can see it.
Okay, you get that moment that you hope that nothing naughty is showing. Thankfully, it's not too bad. So where I want you to head is up here to this padlock. And when you click on the padlock, it has who can see my stuff. And under that drop down, what you want to make sure is that the who can see my future posts is set to friends. That's quite important. Now, if you happen to send something out publicly, intentionally, that will then change. Your future posts will change to public, and that's where people can get caught out. So make sure you go back in and change it. What I also suggest you to, and watch out because you're about to see me hugging a tree, is click the view as, and that will let you look at what Facebook looks like to the public. And you can roll through and just check that anything, and particularly the older stories, is just nothing that's going to reflect badly on you. And it should just be your cover pictures and your profile picture that are showing. And then heading back to that padlock again, who can see my stuff, use activity log. You want to pop in there and you want to look for the posts you're tagged in, and you just want to make sure that they're harmless. The last thing you want to do is roll down here and see that something's been posted that you're not happy about. And what you can also do under timeline review is with this little cog is actually enable that. And that means that if anyone posts something on your timeline, you've got to approve it before it actually goes out there, particularly if it's public. So that's quite cool to know. Just going back to the posts you're tagged in. So here, for example, that's actually my dog that I've been tagged in, and there's this little world, and when you hover over it, it's public. So if I was unhappy about being tagged in that, that's the one I'd be worried about, because the whole world can see that post if they're choosing to go look for it. Whereas if I just roll down a bit, I haven't got any private ones. Oh, here we go. So there's one where Jennifer's tagged me in something, and there's just the two little people, and that's fine because it's only Jennifer's friends and friends of friends that can see that, as opposed to these ones with the world where it's gone out publicly. So that's something to be aware of. And also, if you're commenting on something that's in your news feed and it's got this world, it's public. So just be a little bit cautious about what you're doing there. So there we go. Shall I attempt to turn this off now?
Well, I think that's quite interesting, and I appreciate that, Katrina. What I'm just curious, and I'm sure many of our listeners will be and viewers will be, is how does your dog have permission to actually tag you?
That was my beautiful dog walker, who is wonderful and allows me to do what I do. So, yeah, he's very clever. Wise dog.
Well, my in-laws, they gave their cat their own Facebook page, and the cat tried to friend me, and I rejected it, so I can't actually go home again. So there we go.
Alan, something I did earlier, which I was discussing with Katrina, was I had a look at the advertising options on Facebook, and maybe Katrina could go into that a bit more for us. But I wanted to know, I came across custom audiences, which allows you to import a CSV file of email addresses, so you can have a look into your database. Export the email addresses and then import them into Facebook. That will then tell you how many people exist on Facebook that are in your CRM, and then target them with direct advertising. So that might be useful for candidate advertising or even client advertising. We were looking at decision makers in our CRM, and it turned out it recognized 21% of the emails as being in Facebook as accounts, and that these are business emails as well. So I thought that was quite a good result. And someone on the timeline was saying sort of high-level professionals don't tend to be on Facebook. That seems to contradict that, and I suspect a lot of the others would have been as well, but using their own personal Gmail accounts and so forth. I hope that I think that's an interesting sort of. Is there any more? Is there any more you can tell us about the different sort of advertising options and where you've used them, Katrina?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so a few points. Yes, because I don't use my company email address on my Facebook. For no particular reason, then I just don't. I use my Gmail, my personal Gmail, not even my one that I kind of use as a crossover. So yeah, I wouldn't come up on your list, but I'm quite an avid Facebook user. I don't think you'd like me very much because I have ad block switched on, so I wouldn't see your pay-per-click ad, Louis. Sorry.
I do too.
I'd miss it, but I know all about you. So, I mean, I think that's why the figure's at 21%. I don't think it's because they're not on there. I think it's because a lot of people go, it's Facebook, I'll use my personal email address. So they keep it that separate.
Well, these were CEOs as well. These were MDs and CEOs I was looking at, so, directors. I think that's pretty good. So
I can assure you that they're on there, and to say that they're not outright is just daft. I mean, if you've got 1.2 billion people, it's a huge cross-section of the population. I mean, going back to my stat, I need to look at my little cheat sheet here, and this wasn't put together by me, it was put together by We Are Social. So they're saying of all internet users, there's 2.6 billion, and 1.8, nearly 1.9 billion are on social networks. So it's 26% penetration of that 37%. And of that 37% is of 52% urban of the entire world. So you've got 52% of urban and 48% of rural. So, it's a huge cross-section of people that are on there. So I think it's just about the approach and how you go about it and how you look for them. And maybe they're not going to make it so obvious that they're on there. Certainly not going to write their job title on there potentially, but they might do. They might be really proud they run a company. So you've just got to find your different ways of looking for people.
Do you think the advertising works from a recruitment perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, quite some time ago, as I mentioned earlier, I interviewed Virgin Media, and they had hired these two people based on a pay-per-click advert. Now, they'd gone out and had the advert created, so it cost them 500 quid. You do not need to pay anything like that. So if you just go into facebook.com/advertising, and what I would do is I would click the links to website and I would send them directly from the pay-per-click advert to exactly the place to apply. And if you just follow the steps, you can see how cheaply you can do one of these. I mean, you can set a budget of £3.50 a day, for example, or £5 a day, whatever you want. And you can narrow it right down to your demographic. And what's great is nobody sees what you're setting in there. So if you're trying to get your diversity up, you can kind of go, well, actually, you know what, we really need younger females that are engineers in there. So you can go, well, I want 18 to 30-year-olds who are female who live in London. And you can see whether it's too specific or it's not specific enough. And you can base it on a combination of job titles and interests. I find the interests brings up more people, which goes back to that people aren't necessarily filling it out. But I think it's also taking off that, we're recruiters, we're used to being spoon-fed with a CV or a LinkedIn profile. We just kind of need to go, okay, we're not being spoon-fed here, let's look at it differently.
So looking at interests and what the pages they've liked, the hobbies they have, that's the better way to go. So we all know what developers will be liking, and sorry, most likely stereotyping a bit, but we all know what developers will be liking and following, and you can use that to sort of target specific groups more effectively than job title.
For technical recruitment, you would be amazed if you go in there how many people will come up. And if you use a really grabbing image that will attract their attention, I mean, I've heard of these billboards that are written in code. Maybe that's something like that that's going to stand out in that newsfeed, and it will show you the version for the newsfeed, the version for the mobile, and then the tiny little pay-per-click ones you get, the ones on the right. So that image is very, very important. And of course, I mean, the other option is, so we haven't really discussed much about the jobs box that you can put on pages. So if you have a Facebook page which is really up there, it's got hundreds of thousands of followers, it's very cost effective to put one of those jobs boxes. So I wouldn't use the main part to share jobs. I'd be attracting people with great content, great visuals, insights into the company, because it's also a marketing and sales channel, isn't it, your Facebook page? So I'd be attracting them through all of that, but then having an option that they can go over the side and click and look at your jobs. I mean, one of those is JobVite, and there are 50,000 monthly users that use JobVite for searching for jobs. So there are lots of different ways. Alan?
Well, we might say that there's a nice tag back into Bernadette's question, one of her many questions. She's very engaged with us today. What about the utilization of, say, a business page? She wants to change ours and maybe dump it and restart with a personal page. And that seems a bit of a black art too, as Facebook has made a lot of changes. They've changed the thing to news feeds and, and their follow LinkedIn mode. It seems a little confusing about what kind of page can I have. You and Winning Impressions, you can have your personal page because Winning Impressions is you. But if I'm part of a larger organization, what do I do? Do I go to a proper business page, or do I make it my individual recruiters' pages? What do we do there?
Okay. I mean, there are personal profiles and there are company pages, and your company page can be, different versions of. Okay. So before I answer that, actually, for those who don't know, every single day LinkedIn changes your settings to top. And that is really reducing the amount of views that it's getting. And in a similar way, but with a far better reasoning behind it, is that Facebook's newsfeed, 802 million people active daily, that's a lot of data that they need to sort. So if you want your content to be seen, it becomes really, really difficult, because if the people who like your page don't keep liking posts, they'll stop seeing it. So I'm quite happy to put my hands up and say my Facebook page is a disaster. I don't have the time to invest in it. It's got 160 people. I share something, 9 people see it. But that's fine with me, because I don't actually think it's the channel for me. I just have it there in case someone comes and looks and thinks I should be on there. I use all of the other channels out there to share my stuff, which are much more appropriate to me. So first and foremost, make the decision. It's a bit like that top updates where hardly anything's been seen. Is Facebook page the right solution for me? Then you need to think, what am I going to call my page if I decide to go that route? Now, I personally, if I'm connected to my boss, I'm not going to go and like Alan Whitford jobs, because my boss might see that I just suddenly like that page, or he might see it on my profile, and he's going to go, whoa, Katrina's looking for a job, fired. So a lot of people won't like one that says jobs and career. I know there are exceptions, but perhaps they liked them a long time ago. But the more savvy people are getting, the less they're doing it. So I personally think do it if you've got a marketer who can drive it up and can focus all their energy on it. If you're on the agency side, have a look at Cloud9 Recruitment. Again, I know I go on about them, but my God, do they do it right? You'll see that they share lots and lots of fun, light-hearted stuff, but it's also educational, and very occasionally they drop a job in, and when they do, it's visual. Yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question, Alan.
Well, yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think part of the question around it is this whole idea of pages. So, and the mixture of what's right for me about how I want to use Facebook. So,
yeah.
Lecha Kulder wanted to know. I mean, their searches are only showing people that have actually got search terms in their names, but clearly they don't have graph search yet then. So they're trying to search and it's not working, so they don't know what to do about it. And other people might have a page and nobody's coming on it. Yes?
Sorry. Way back. Yep. What did you just say? Slowly.
We got a comment from Lecha Goiter saying the searches I have previously carried out have only come up with results where someone has the search term as part of their name. So they're only getting limited results. So we can kind of assume from that they don't have proper search then, do they?
Yeah. So if I'm sorry, I'm just going to make sure I do one. Yeah, okay. So how you'll know that you have graph search, okay, because it is being rolled out. is when you click in that box, it will one, it has a little F, and then it will say search for people, places, and things, and it will automatically bring a drop up that says people I may know, my friends, photos of my friends, music I may like. If you don't have that, try changing your language to English US, and you should see it change. Then you will be able to do my friends who are, or people who work at, and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm just checking my cheat list to make sure I'm telling you the right information. Yeah,
no,
so for people who work at companies.
So.
Yeah. Oh, you did that.
Mine's on English US. You just go to your settings in the top right, change language to English US. I thought they would have rolled it out by now, but they're obviously still sort of testing it. Yeah, and then you get it. It appears on its own. So.
Yeah.
But if she wants to tweet me, if she gets stuck, we can sort it out, because it's easy to sort out.
I think that's a he, actually.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay.
I'm Australian.
Well, hey,
it's a company name. It's a company name, but I know the chap there, so it's a he.
Yeah. We've had by the way, a really broad question from Abtech, which is, and you and I would love this question because this is a 2 or 3 hour conversation now. How would you advise to create a long-term social recruitment strategy if we never tried it before? I think we could park that one for the moment. What I would say, Abtech, thank you for investing, but read some of our and watch some of our other videos. We've already done that, but then I'll let Kat have a bash at it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just cheating because I know who it is. It's Vida.
Okay.
Yeah, because we were joking around on LinkedIn earlier. So I think what you need to do is, before you invest any energy, is spend half an hour having a play and working out if you can find the people that you normally recruit, and I know she's in the tech space, and see how many you can find. So run some graph search, use variants, just play with it. It's an amazing search tool. And see, and go and have a look at some of the other technology companies' pages and see how many people are liking it, and who's in your location, or are you recruiting somewhere else? I mean, if you're recruiting in Australia, for example, they're very buzzy on Facebook and will respond on Facebook. You send them a LinkedIn message, they don't reply. So it's, have a play and see who you can come up with. If you can come up with, then you need to work out, right, do I have somebody who can get my page up because I'm fighting that edge rank algorithm all the time? Do I have somebody that can focus on it? Or actually, no, I don't want to go that route. I'm going to do some pay-per-click advertising and do some direct messaging and see what the results are and see where to focus my energy. So do a bit of research before you do anything.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd love to know if Lisa agrees with that as well. Lisa Barclay-Jones, I'd love to hear if she can write a message. If she's listening.
And one of the things I would also say is that it's not about just a long-term, social strategy. You can have a recruitment strategy to begin with. So, understand what you're doing as your normal sourcing mix. And as much as we all have loved these tools for the last 3 or 4 years that we've talked about them, none of them are the magic bullet. So if you're doing tech recruitment, you're still looking at, the job boards like JobSite or JobServer, whatever you're looking at, or if in the U.S. you're looking at Dice. You need to think about the mixture of sourcing strategies. I think anybody who comes to this and goes, well, there are those 8 trillion people on Facebook, that's all I need, is going to be seriously disappointed.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I do think that there's a little bit of getting back to basics. And I know Mervyn Dinnan talks about this, actually, as does Will Staney, about actually it's recruiting. You don't call it email recruiting or phone recruiting, or, so it's recruiting, but you're using social media. I think the difference is you can't just spam these people. There are lots of people who just chuck their job out on Twitter and go, okay, so I'm social recruiting, and they don't get a response because we switch off to that. And it'll be the same if you do it in your Facebook feed. I'm sure people will just ignore you. So it's social's the word. It's a chit chat in the pub and engaging people with who you are and your personality and drawing them in. And you can't ignore that element. So I guess that's the difference between it and the email recruiting or the phone recruiting. But it's still just another channel. It's just part of the mix, as you said, Alan.
Yeah, and I think you're right about the post and pray mentality that we fomented by the growth of job boards, where we created a generation of recruiters that thought, I posted a job up on pick a job board, I'm now doing online recruitment, when in fact they weren't doing any more than actually putting an ad in the Daily Mail or in the Sun that Alistair wants them to advertise in. It's just putting an ad up, and I think we certainly have seen that a lot with Twitter, with massive streams of job content, which, the flip side of all of this, how easy it is to find and reach to people, is it's also easy for them to turn it off.
Yeah.
And you've shown us how to lock down that stuff. Like, if the candidate's going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, all of these channels will just, I personally, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of recruiters on this call are finding LinkedIn quite unresponsive because of the fact that people are just spamming message, because LinkedIn's gone and sold our data to all of us recruiters so that we can email or message or LinkedIn or InMail or whatever you want to call it. And so people are just not responding because they're sick of it, or they're sick of getting blank invitations to connect. So that shows it just doesn't work that way, because the people on there aren't necessarily looking for a job. A lot of people are just on there. So it's exactly the same if you then take that over to Facebook, or you take that over to Twitter or over to Google+. If you're just going to do that one-way traffic, that's what's going to happen. People are just going to turn off, but they don't necessarily disconnect from you. They just don't reply. So you'll still think, oh, well, I've got 5,000 followers, but nobody's actually retweeting any of your stuff or favoriting, or they're not liking it, they're not sharing it, because they're not interested. Oh, hey.
Right.
I've seen
an Lisa came back to you. Yeah, she's come back to you. The short answer to the lovely at Winning Impress, it's about goal in capital letters. Too few recruiters have goals.
Yeah, that's extremely true.
Ask and you shall receive.
Yeah, exactly along the lines of what I'm saying, isn't it? She's just put it more succinctly. But to go have a play, to make sure it's the place you want to be. Oh my God, Facebook is the place I want to be. Great, my goal is that. Perfect. Thank you, Lisa.
All right, so in a bit of a reset, we've got about 15, 20 minutes to go. This is the Rec Hangout. I'm Alan Whitford from Abtech Partnership, ably aided and abetted by Louis Welcomme from Colleague Software, and as Lisa's described her, the lovely Winning Impress, Katrina Collar, talking about Facebook, social recruiting, and a lovely dog walk in the park, among other things. So if you want to follow us. A lot of you are following us on the Rec Hangout Twitter feed. Louise trying to get some of those questions into us. You can watch the video on YouTube, on the Colleague Software page, on our Google Plus Rec Hangout page, and on rceuro.com. And it'll be available in all these places immediately afterwards for you to repost into your own blog. So please take our content and share it out in the true element of social. So you've almost convinced me that I should be using Facebook. Almost, okay? What about looking at it from the candidate side? What should I be doing as a candidate to make myself more findable and more approachable to have people come after me for jobs?
Okay, so in exactly the same way I said lock it down, oh my God, lock it down. I think that's really important because, well, I mean, even this morning I heard an example from an agency recruiter where someone was rejected by their client because they looked at the LinkedIn and went, well, that's all well and good. They looked at the Facebook and went, oh my goodness, because there were really unprofessional photos on there. So they need to be very aware of that. I mean, you'd think in 2014 people would know, but they don't, and almost like they don't care, which is even more intriguing. Perhaps they're not the right company for you, but so they need to do that. And then there's all sorts of stuff that they can be doing. I mean, I think the groups on there are amazing. So from both sides, recruiter or job seeker, you can certainly go and have a look at some of the groups on there. Go in, join, interact appropriately as you would on any groups on any of the other networks. And then, of course, like company pages, there's no reason not to interact on any of the pages that are there. And, of course, you can go and have a squiz through all the jobs. And if it, depending on the solution that they're using, so say you take PepsiCo, who's using Work4, that allows you to actually share their jobs yourself as well, which would really make you stand out. And also you can save searches and all this kind of stuff. So there's different little elements that they can be using. I don't imagine they'd be wanting to sort of search for recruiters and add them as friends. That might be a bit creepy, but certainly protect their profile, go and join some groups, like some pages, get involved.
Photos.
There we go. Okay. Yep. So, should I put better photos up? You know, should I be? If I'm in catering or I want to work in Ibiza, maybe that's the kind of pictures I should put up.
I said I messaged my brother the other day on LinkedIn, and I said, Jack, you really got to put a nicer photograph up there. And he said, Louis, you really need to get a new face. He wasn't very nice about it.
Can I just say, so you have
to put it delicately.
Yeah, but it is absolutely amazing. I train in-house and I train agency side, and I am staggered. When we're going through the searches and people are coming up, the reaction from those profile pics is just, it's an immediate no. Yeah. And I've even seen one where the guy was in a suit, and you think, well, he looks fine, but he looked arrogant. He just had this sort of stance about him. So he was rejected immediately just on that basis. Now, I know they shouldn't be. It's not PC. And I know a lot of people worry about it from an age point of view, but I don't think it's an age thing. It's just about having something that's professional and that you look friendly and approachable in. So, yeah, Alan probably has a point. You need to sort out your profile picture. On all the sites, I don't agree with selfies being on LinkedIn and things like that. I think they should have something that's a bit more straight on, less down the top. And yeah, perhaps if I was looking for a job, I might remove my tree hugging photo that I've got on there now and just put something that just, perhaps shows off an achievement, like me at the top of Kilimanjaro or something like that. So I'd sort of think it through. How does it reflect on me? See, valid point. He's kind of disappeared though.
Yeah, he has. I'm really interested.
This is you and I.
Well, we covered this a bit earlier. I've been trying to build groups and pages and experimenting on Facebook for a long time. It's quite difficult because a lot of recruiters aren't active on Facebook, which is I suppose why we're having this conversation. So the key to from a recruiter's perspective seems to be looking at how candidates use Facebook, and that's to share their interests, to talk about things they're interested in their personal lives. And with their friends, and it does seem to be mostly a personal space. So I suppose in terms of using groups and pages, do you have firstly a preference between a group and a page, and do you have any advice on using that? I suppose it's a bit like a lot of the other channels put out good content, try and focus on an interest rather than just your company or what you do at work, but what interests the candidate or the client, indeed, if you're doing client marketing.
So I have to say, because of that whole edge rank algorithm thing, that I'm actually really starting to like the groups on there. Now, you say recruiters aren't really using it. The Recruiters Online group has got 2,321 people in there. What else am I in?
Okay, well, I'm not using it well enough.
SourceCon's got 354. God, what else am I in? But what I love about the groups is, one, I tend to see it more in my newsfeed. I don't know why, I just do. But also, you get the little numbers on the side in the right column. So that tells me that something's going on in there. So I can click in and have a look. There's another group I'm in as well that's full of recruiters. It's not showing for some reason. There are plenty on there, and they're chit-chatting about recruitment, of course. But actually, let me see if I can. I just think emulate Cloud9. I just think that they're doing it so well. If I have a look at their, being paid by them, by the way, maybe I should be. I'm going to see if I can bring their page up for you and just show you. And I also think because they're using it as an agency point of view, okay, they recruit social media people, so that probably helps. So I'm going to try and share my screen again. Did that work? No. Screen share. Here we go. Start screen share. There we go. Took me a minute. Hopefully that's big enough.
Oh, Cloud9, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought I'll show you an agency rather than a client, because it's harder for agents. But if you roll down their stuff, Cloud9's Nicola just coined the phrase dentist apprentice, which sounded like a good reality TV show. And then they've put a postcard. And then, and this was going around this morning, which is just beautiful, about just being yourself, basically. And then, okay, here's a job, but at least they've put something quite funny with it. So there's a funny graphic, because graphics, it's all about graphics. And here's a little bit of insight into them as people, as human beings. And there's a dog. We've got to have a dog. I'll just squeeze past that one. You know, I've worked for some recruitment companies who act like this. So this is Steve who's just going, I need your sales forecast by Monday. You know, it's humor again, and it's engaging. It's creating conversation below. Again, the insight into who they are as human beings, more insight. Oh, no, that's a quote. A little bit more insight. We've got another job coming up sometime soon. So you see, it's a long way before you get a job. Right, Cloud9 needs you. Here's a job. Oh no, that's about the recruitment.
It's not a stream. It's not a stream of jobs like you sometimes see on a Twitter, a recruitment agency Twitter profile.
Lots of pictures.
Who's going to follow that?
Lots of advice. There's the team doing something, giving something back to charity. I love this. Copywriters with spelling errors in their CVs. I mean, it just cracks me up. But, you know, that would be the sort of thing where people have written a comment and actually they've deliberately written something with bad grammar and it's been that's actually really funny. Attention to detail spelt incorrectly. So it's all about sharing. So that's what works on Facebook. This kind of stuff, pictures, occasionally a job. If the job's there, it's got something humorous with it. So hopefully I didn't stream that too fast. I get a bit excited.
No, we could. And I gather from some stuff I was reading yesterday, I gather if you have a call to action, as you say, a lot of imagery, but also encouraging people to share, to like, to actually asking, gets a higher level of engagement with your page.
I haven't tried that. As I said, mine's a disaster. I need a mini-me.
Well, and I guess we will check in with Steve, and your check will be in the post from him for showing the Cloud9 site.
Steve's a good example for anyone watching that. Can I have a check too?
I know, I have given him a right plug on this Hangout.
They're all right.
Yeah, we should point out that there are other digital agencies. There are other applications like Work4Labs. Let me see. I'm getting all those caveats in now. There are other recruiting systems. Actually, there aren't any other recruiting systems. There's only Colleague. That would be right, Louis.
Yeah, I mean, actually on that, so seeing you mentioned Work4, because I blog for them, but I'm not paid by them, so, you know. There's also, strangely, Tweet My Jobs, which is weird because you're thinking it's about Twitter, but Tweet My Jobs will also do a jobs box for your Facebook page and also JobVite. So there, I'm not being biased. There are 3. There you go. Go and pick. Okay. There are probably others. But again, don't use it if your page isn't really busy. And don't be surprised if Sorry.
I was going to say, go ahead. I was just going to ask you to do a crystal ball now because we've got a couple minutes left. We might as well have a little fun with it. We've done all the practical stuff on how to become a Facebook expert recruiter or a Facebook candidate. Is Facebook going to become a job board?
I hope not. I hope not. Are we going, don't do it? I mean, yeah, I know that I'm saying do a pay-per-click advert if you really, you know, if you're really just stepping in and you're a bit fearful of using it, go that route. But because you're going to be there amongst loads of other stuff, and at the same, we're being sold stuff at the moment already, aren't we? Actually, I don't know because I've got ad block turned on. Well, I turn it off and have a look. So you know, there's other stuff it's being mixed up with. Post-wise, I don't think our friends would tolerate us just sharing jobs because I think you would get quite a backlash if you were doing that in your normal homepage feed from your friends. People would actually unfriend you for doing that, I would have thought. So no. I hope not. Actually, I'm just going to say I hope not. Okay. I'm going to sit on the fence.
You're going to sit on the fence, okay, and I hope it's not too pointy a fence.
Ouch.
Well, Katrina, I think it's been a very interesting conversation, and I know we could do this for quite a long time. But I think just to recap some of the stuff is, hey, we can't ignore it. There's tons of people out there, so we really ignored it at our peril. Play around with it to figure out what you want to do. Make sure you've got the graph search, and a nice tip, change your language setting to US English. It might actually show up on your page. I totally agree with you on the targeted advertising. I talk a lot about if you need to find a left-handed, green-eyed, one-armed widget maker, on Facebook you could search for that person or target an ad to that person. And as a good HR person, I could never conceivably advertise any other way for that.
Yeah.
So if you try to just identify a niche and find out if people are available out there for slightly more serious types of recruiting, Facebook has got a huge amount of tool sets to help you do that. And let's find out if there even exists before you build and spend a lot of money on another kind of campaign.
Yeah.
As Lisa said, have goals for your recruitment. Make sure you got a recruitment strategy before you even think about starting with a social piece. And if all comes unstuck, call Katrina.
Yeah, like that. You're more than welcome. Ask me a question, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's to rule it out altogether without playing is silly. So have the play. Yeah. Have a look.
All right. So Katrina, how do we find you then? If they're going to call you or tweet you or call you, how do they get hold of you?
They can call me. The easiest place to find all my contact details is winningimpression.com. That's one winning impression. I want you to all make a great one. And of course, I am on Twitter. I couldn't get the shun on, so it's @winningimpress. And I'm quite hot to trot on Twitter, so I usually answer quite quickly. So all my contact details, winningimpression.com, or tweet me @winningimpress. Or you could use LinkedIn. I might answer.
Yeah, and you can track us on Google as well. Louis, what do we got coming up? What are we doing next? In 2 weeks' time, we've got Mr. Greg Savage himself joining us, I believe.
Yes, Greg Savage. He's coming over to the UK on September the 10th to do a masterclass with the Elite Network, and that masterclass is going to be on leading for fun and money, recruitment reinvented. It's for anyone who's watching who's a manager in recruitment, an owner in recruitment. Basically, we're doing a little preamble to that. He's going to give us a few tips, give us a few strategies for the Rec Hangout for an hour. That's on the 13th of August, so 2 weeks today at 1 p.m. BST as normal. He is being joined by James Osborne, who's the CEO of the Elite Recruitment Network. James is a fascinating speaker as well. I've seen him speak a couple of times. And the title of that in full is How to Be a Successful Leader, Recruitment Reinvented, Leading for Fun and Money. Thank you, Katrina. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Yep, it's fantastic. And by the way, read Greg's blog, The Savage Truth.
Yep.
He can be pretty acerbic, and he is an Aussie, and he lets it fly. There's no holds barred. And some of his recruiting models and his thoughts around contingent recruitment are quite interesting. So I'm looking forward to that session. Yeah. Katrina, it's been fantastic. Sorry, Louis, go ahead.
Sorry, Alan, I forgot to say I believe Louise will still be doing the notes from the Hangout on the UK Recruiter blog, so they'll be going out tomorrow or Friday, and that will have a list of all the takeaways and the key points from this session. So we'll email that out to you if you're on our mailing list. So sign up on the Rec Hangout page on the colleague blog if you want to get that.
Fantastic. Hey guys, it's been fun, and let's go play on Facebook and try and recruit some people. And Katrina, I'm going to catch up with you some point.
Definitely. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Katrina. Thanks,
Thanks
Alan.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.